Hello, my name is David Molina, Servite Class of 71. I'd like to thank you for inviting me. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak with you. I hope to be of service. I'm very excited about this topic, finding your niche, a topic which I've been interested in pretty much my whole life. I've made kind of a hobby of looking at people's stories, how they got to where they got and what worked and what didn't work. So I learned a lot in researching this. Your immediate questions as graduates very soon is what is your major, which you've probably already decided, at least the first guess, and then what will be your career eventually. But the big question is, what do I do with my life? That's the big question. You get to decide that. Only you can make that call. A little bit about me. 50 years ago, I was sitting probably in the exact same chair you're sitting in right now. And I was the second of six children. 50 years ago, that was a standard size Catholic family, six. That we had, a number of my classmates were one of eight or nine or even 12. That's the way it was back in the day. We all went to Catholic grade school. I went to St. Bruno's in Whittier, as did my partner George Magula here. I had three other brothers, so it was the four Molina Servite brothers. Tony was a year ahead of me, class of 70, myself 71, John was 76, and Mark, the class of 83. I like to distinguish between purpose and goals. Purpose is your why. What are you trying to accomplish in your life? What is your mission? Goals, on the other hand, are the what it takes to achieve your purpose. What should you be doing in the short term? My purposes, as I grew up, the first purpose I can remember when I was a little kid, my purpose was to beat my brother in every competition. He used to beat up on me. Maybe you that are second kid children have that same experience of having to fight, fend for yourself and fight for your place. But he would pick on me, so my purpose was to get even with him or to beat him in competition. So it wasn't a great purpose, but I was a kid. What'd you expect? From age 8 to 12, my goal was to be an LA Dodger. I really loved baseball. I was a huge Dodger fan, and that was my goal. I outgrew that one, and at Servite, my purpose became to achieve and to do the best I could. My goal was to get into college. The fun things that I really loved were soccer and filmmaking. So one point that I would make is that it's good to have a purpose. It's important, and really any purpose is better than no purpose. And you can always upgrade. The most influential career story, I'm going to start with that, and it was my dad. So imagine yourself as a sophomore at Servite, and you film making. The movie club is great, the soccer is great, you've got all your friends, everything's going well. Your dad calls a family meeting, says, so the Molina family are sitting around the table. My dad announces that his company, Rockwell International, was planning to move to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so everybody, all six of us were in different schools and, having a pretty good time of it. And so, it just kind of hit us like a ton of bricks. But the second thing he said was, but the Molinas aren't going to Pittsburgh. We're staying right here. And essentially what he did was he passed on a great career opportunity. It was a nice raise. It was a boost, a promotion, but it would have taken the family back to Pittsburgh, and his priority was very clear, and his family came before his career in that situation. So he got a new job in the area and actually got a raise in doing that. And the best part of the story is, like, a few years later, Rockwell came back to LA repentant, realizing that Art Molina was right. They should have stayed in LA. So he got his job back with a raise again, his pension was reinstated, his retirement, everything. So he didn't miss a beat, and he showed Rockwell. But it made quite an impression on me. So as far as my career, my goal was to study cinema. That's what I loved to do. That was the starting point. surprisingly, I had a hard time adjusting to college, and I think it happens a lot. And so, my advice to you is be prepared for some turbulence when you start college. It's a big change. I think I kind of defined my situation as a bit of an identity crisis, and my purpose at that time was to find out who I was, which I eventually, within a couple of years, I figured that out, and it largely came about with meeting my wife, my now wife Maria, in philosophy class at SC. So be prepared for turbulence the first year or two. Very few people, it turns out, know early on what they want to do, and most of us need time to figure it out. I was one of those people. There's an interesting path. So there's a series of steps that I would recommend you consider. One is start by asking, what is your dream job? Look for the thing that excites you, the thing that you would do even if they didn't pay you. What career would use every single talent and ability to its maximum? And what would allow you the freedom to be your truest self? Those are all questions that lead to your dream job. A couple of stories of dream jobs. A young man that I knew was not really a great student. In fact, he had a dyslexia that made it really difficult for him to absorb information from books. And yet he wanted to be a pilot. So the way he achieved that was his mom went to class with him, the flight school classes on the ground, and would would read the information. He would repeat it. They would kind of go back and forth. And he learned very well. He had a really great memory. And being a pilot really you don't have a book when you're riding an airplane. It's all inside your head. He became a great pilot, and that's what he does right now. He flies jets all over the country. He's got people that are willing to pay good money to take them on a private plane all over. So what's not to like about that? Another person that I consider found their dream job fairly early on was my classmate Tom Haywood. He started as a theology major, and at a certain point he came to the conclusion that rather than theology was great, but maybe he could put it into practice. So he became a doctor and eventually a cardiologist. He's probably a world famous cardiologist, great guy. But he loves his work. It takes every bit of his effort and talent to do what he does, and he loves it. It's been a great match. And then another one, an artist, a young man, probably at age 11 or 12, went to his mom and said, I know my older brother is into computers and he's going to get a great job. He's going to make more money than I can do being an artist. I love to draw, but I don't know if I can make a living with that. And his mother had some wise words for him and told him that, look, you could work a job that you didn't particularly care for, save up your vacation time, and then 2 weeks out of the year you could do what you love to do, which is to paint or to draw or to do art. On the other hand, what you could do is do what you love, be an artist. All you have to do is live within your means. Whatever amount of money you make, that's what you live on. That's not hard. Most people have to do that in any case. So the boy really took that to heart, and he became an artist, had a great career, ended up with very, very, very good income as a result. So it was his dream job, and he didn't compromise on that. He went for it, and it worked. So the next step, if you know what your dream job might be, is to ask yourself the question, can you make a living on it? So here's 3 examples of people that had great aspirations, but they figured out it wasn't really a long-term thing. And so the first one is my good friend Paul Delgado. He was graduating from UCLA economics major, and his goal was to become a pro soccer player. So his dad took him aside and says, Paul, you're killing me. He says, this is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Soccer at that time, 50 years ago, was just starting out. He says, Paul, there's no money in soccer. There's no future in soccer in the United States, and go to get a graduate degree, get a real job essentially. So Paul thought about it, and it was probably pretty good advice. I might have given him the same advice at the time. So he went on and got a degree in engineering and had a great career. He's happy with it, worked out great. Another example, and this is ironic because this is Paul's son. At the same stage, Paul's son Andres comes up to Paul and says, "Dad," says, "I want to go on the world tour." He was a surfer. Andres was a really good surfer, at least for California standards, and he had the opportunity to join the world tour of surfers. And so they would go around the globe and surf. And I can tell you this, only one or two surfers in the world make enough money to live on it. And Andres was not one of them, and Paul said, Andres, use your head, this is crazy. Go to college, it's going to put you behind this, that, and the other thing. And Andres, in contrast, said, nope, I'm going to do it. So he did. And so for 4 years, Andres went around the world surfing in South America, Australia, Africa, Europe, every place around the world. 4 years of his life he devoted to that. 4 years later, he comes back home and says, "Dad, I think you're right. I'm really way behind. I had a good time, but I'm way behind." So he went to school. He went to college as an older student, and he got a great job as a banker. He does very well. He loves it, and he still surfs. So years later, maybe 10 years after he had done this, he had a different viewpoint of it. Andres thought, well, maybe it wasn't such a bad idea. I got it out of my system. I had a great time, something that I could do that not many people in the whole world could do. So it turned out years later, it made sense to him, and it didn't, he was single, so it worked out fine. And the final example is my son, Danny. He's a punk rock fan. He plays music. He's played in a lot of bands, played in a lot of clubs. He loves it. If he had his druthers, that would be his career, but he really realized that there was not many punk rockers live on it. It's not the greatest lifestyle. So he enjoys it, but his comment was, "I'm going to ride that pony as far as it'll take me," meaning he followed his passion to the point where he realized, he was not going to make money on that. Maybe he could have, but he realized at a certain point that wasn't happening. So he still loves it, and that's what he does for fun. But the common denominator, all these, the soccer player, the surfer, and the punk rockers, these were fun things, but it was not sustainable. So if you're not sure about this passion, you can ride that pony as far as it'll carry you. And actually, the best time to be bold is when you're young and single, but things can change. When it's clear that it's not working out, don't waste time with it. If your goal is to be an NFL quarterback and you spend a season or two and it's not happening, then don't waste your time, move on. You tried your best. So if you don't have that dream job, you look for the alternatives that are workable. And thinking of one person I know, he was a musician, great trumpist, played the trumpet, and went to a music school, high-class musical school, and studied it for years and got really, really good at it. But he realized in the process there were only like 2 trumpet players in the whole country, and they were going to be alive for another 20 years, that when they died, then he would be able to be first trumpet in some philharmonic. So that didn't seem like such a great plan. And so he went into business. And it turned out the dean of the School of Music had kind of told the parents, says, look, 99% of your kids are not going to make a living out of music, but the discipline and the focus that they learn in studying music carries over into everything else. And they're going to be amazing businessmen, lawyers. They're going to do great. And they did. And this young man did as well. So, and for me, the alternative to cinema was dentistry. And so one thing to consider is lifestyle and balancing things. That's the next step 4. And a couple of stories about that. Father Motzko, Charles Motzko, was one of the 11th of 12 children. His dad was a coal miner. This was many years ago, before I was born. And this coal miner, his dad, supported 12 kids. And coal mining is a dangerous, hard, dirty, long hours job. And yet he did that for his family, and he had a great purpose. He had the great sacrifice that he made for his kids. He was basically investing in the next generation. His limited opportunities meant that was the only thing that he could do to support his family, most likely. But he was looking, his son Charles became a priest and master's degree and a great man. So that was his great purpose, and that worked out. But another story of lifestyle and balance, I had a patient that worked in the fisheries in the Gulf of Alaska during the springtime. It was cold, it was hard, it was grueling. You spent like 2 months of just hard, dangerous work. But it paid great. So with the money he made in those 2 months, for the other 10 months, he would go down to Baja, lived on the beach, and did some fun fishing. So it interests me that he was able to design a career that basically the whole central focus was his desire for lifestyle, and I thought it was pretty clever thing. So anyway, back to me at USC. I decided once it was clear that Marie and I were going to be married, which was fairly early on, to skip cinema. Didn't seem to be a good fit. SC was all about Hollywood. I didn't really see any good happy endings to those Hollywood type things. So we looked into dentistry, and it seemed to have a great amount of benefit as far as lifestyle goes, particularly. Had a good income. It was a stable business model in any economy. A big thing was I was able to locate any place in California, and I chose a small town in Northern California, which was just a great choice. It's been a wonderful place to live. I was able to work a 4-day work week. My wife was able to work in the office. She was a dental hygienist. And when it came time for her to be a mom, she was a full-time mom. So we had that flexibility. And I had my own business. I didn't have a boss. Well, my wife says I had 1,600 bosses, my patients, which is true. So the takeaway here is that career and life path is rarely straight. So you have to adjust. So the path that the path to your career could be, number one, look for your dream job. Ask yourself, are you willing to pay the price? If yes, go for it. Ride that pony as far as it'll carry you. If the answer is no, find a workable alternative. Take into account lifestyle and balance. And then next, your relationship changes everything. It becomes, instead of I, it becomes we. It changes everything. And finally, consciously design your career to fit what you would like for a lifestyle. So how did my plan work? Well, we married in 1976, ages 23 and 22, which is much younger than you will, most likely, because that's changed. It's about 10 years later, I think, is the average. We graduated together from UC San Francisco Dental School in 1980. I had a Air Force scholarship that paid my way through dental school, which took away the stress. I realized as newlyweds in dental school that would be a potential for a lot of stress on the relationship. So I tried to clear out as much as I could, and having the scholarship made, there's no debt. We had a little income that we lived on, which was great. And I had a job when I graduated. Worked for the Air Force as a dentist for 6 years, jumped out to private practice in Grass Valley, where we currently live. And we raised our 4 kids. That was my vocation. That was our family was always the main goal, just like my dad. That was our why. And so we were very, very happy. That was, in our Catholic faith, I believe that was our vocation. And it took every last bit of talent, effort, and every quality that we had as human beings were put to the test as being patients, and that was our work of art. That's what we did. So the question is, the question in our society is, can you have it all? Maybe yes, maybe no, but I have a better idea than having it all, and that is to be grateful for it all. You're going to have good times and bad times, and be grateful for both of them. There's things to learn in both situations. I look upon life as a gift, and so that makes me grateful. It's the most precious of all gifts. And so God gave us this life to do with what we choose to do. It's the most wonderful gift, and we give it back to Him in service to one another and to His people. So my purpose, that was my purpose, and that was my career. So I wish you well and pray that God bless you on your journey. Thank you.